and Galanis. Well, Donald Trump just granted them both clemency. This is significant for many reasons. Here is your story. During the 118th Congress, as House Republicans were investigating the Biden crime family, Congress heard from many of then first son Hunter Biden's previous associates, including Devin Archer and Jason Galanis. These two men provided valuable insight. They also said they were targeted for their willingness to come forward. Now President Donald Trump has granted clemency to both men. Most recently, Trump granted clemency to Galanis Friday night, commuting his entire sentence. The New York Times reported on the commutation earlier yesterday. And of course, as Red State says, we covered at the time in February of last year, the House Oversight Committee heard jailhouse testimony from Galanis. We played it on this program. It was huge. And this gentleman was clear that Hunter's value was his family name and his access to then Vice President Joe Biden. Anybody who doesn't know this is still living in Iraq. They will not be saved. Galanis also appeared remotely to testify before the committee in March of last year. And this is from the New York Times. Jason Galanis was sentenced in 2020 to 189 months in prison in order to pay nearly $162 million in forfeiture and restitution after pleading guilty to his role in two securities fraud schemes. One of the schemes which defrauded investors and a Native American tribal entity of tens of millions of dollars involved a company for which Mr. Biden Hunter was listed as the vice chairman, according to documents introduced at trial. Galanis testified that he believed he was the victim of a pattern of retribution by the Department of Justice under the Biden-Harris administration, and also alleged sexual assault from a prison guard. The testimony took a dark turn when Galanis mentioned how he was serving time after pleading guilty to securities fraud. Our companies were entrusted with $11 billion of union members' pension fund money, whose trust I betrayed, he shared in his testimony. He so far served 8 of his 14-year sentence. What Galanis detailed was not only a prosecutorial strategy that he says he believes was meant to protect the Bidens, but allegations of sexual assault he says he experienced from a guard at the federal prison camp at Pensacola. Especially because I was not asking for any reduction in the charges or sentence, my attorney at the time told me the rejection was highly irregular, Galanis said about such a development. As I reviewed the facts, I realized prosecutors in the Southern District of New York had gone lightly on Devin Archer and had not indicted Hunter Biden at all, despite then available documentation that we were all partners. We were all involved in the decision-making that involved illegal self-dealing, and all of us had financially benefited from these schemes. Hunter Biden, to this day, is untouched. The pardon for him, issued allegedly by his father, protects him all the way back to the beginning of 2014 for a reason. Archer was convicted and sought appeals. He's still facing a prison sentence of 1 year and 1 day. Galanis testified, he said, I believe the Southern District of New York's prosecution strategy was intended to protect Hunter Biden and ultimately Vice President Biden. Due to his concerns regarding this unequal treatment, Galanis says he submitted a petition for commutation with the DOJ in December of 2020. He says, I filed this request after the 2020 election, and I knew if this was not granted, I could face the wrath of the incoming Biden administration, including the Department of Justice. Although Galanis says that his CARES Act home confinement request was approved on June 9th, 2023. Remember when everybody was getting let out of prison? Oh, it's COVID, it's not safe, because we should care that it's not safe for our prisoners. Really, let's set them free. That makes great sense. His approval for home confinement was reversed on June 13th, the day after the Oversight Committee announced they were issuing a subpoena to Archer. Once more, the Southern District of New York came up in Galanis' testimony. He said, I understand from a former high-ranking Bureau of Prison official that Southern District of New York prosecutors aggressively weighed in with the Bureau of Prison staff to oppose my release. As a result of this DOJ intervention, I was denied home confinement. And then, according to Goulanis, he was raped by a prison guard. Speaking of Devin Archer, Donald Trump has issued him a pardon. That news was first covered by Miranda Devine, a columnist for the New York Post last week. She said the president promised Archer the pardon when they met at the NCAA Wrestling Championships in Philadelphia, an encounter arranged by another former Hunter Biden associate turned whistleblower, Tony Bobulinski. He's getting a full pardon, Trump told me Sunday, Miranda Devine reports. He was screwed by the Bidens. They destroyed him like they tried to destroy a lot of people. A full pardon, Trump repeated, describing Archer as an anti-Biden person because of his pivotal role in exposing Biden corruption. This presidential clemency will end a decade-long ordeal for Archer, who was facing jail time for securities fraud over a bad deal he was involved in with Hunter Biden in 2015. Archer said, I want to extend my deepest thanks to President Trump. I'm grateful to the president for recognizing that I was the victim of a convoluted lawfare effort indeed intended to destroy and silence me. Like so many people, my life was devastated by the Biden family's selfish disregard for the truth and for the peace of mind and the happiness of others. The Bidens talk about justice, but they don't mean it. I'm grateful that the American people are now well aware of this reality. All these voices who want to impeach Trump, down with Trump, get rid of Trump. What did Donald Trump ever do? He dared to love America. He dared to love the American people as family members. He has repeatedly dug into his own pocket. He's helped people quietly behind the scenes. He helped finance Jesse Jackson's presidential dreams. We know he gave out free loans to black business leaders in New York in the 80s and the 90s. What is it that Donald Trump has ever done when you compare him to what the Biden crime family syndicate did? And how the Democrats and the deep state expect them to get away with it. That is not justice. It certainly is not one nation under God, indivisible. And America sees this. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, it's so weird. It's almost like everybody knew Joe Biden was toast. Did you guys hear about the Biden White House making contingencies for his death during his presidency? He's sharp as a whip. Seasoned. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
So that was Wendy Bell at the Wendy Bell Radio Network on Rumble today, which is Tuesday, April 1st. We are driving through the ranch lands of Florida, mid-Florida, and right through the center, right through the heart of Florida. You can see the amazing Everglades pine trees and all sorts of farms and ranches, foliage. It's very green here. It's very beautiful. These lands need to be protected, and I will do more on that later about the possibility of these ranch lands being turned into development when they should be used for what their intended purpose is, which is the breadbasket of our country, as well as filtering the water as it goes through the Everglades. feels bad for that. All right, you guys, ciao for now. More driving through Florida, through the ranch lands. And Wendy Bell, stay tuned.